We lived together. We shared keys, groceries, routines. 2 toothbrushes standing side by side. A shared apartment key resting on a tray by the door. A grocery list written in neat, familiar handwriting. A soft "Did you eat?" from the other room. I felt alone next to him. There's a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't look like loneliness. It doesn't arrive with slammed doors or cruel words. It doesn't give you a clear moment you can point to and say, "Here." That's where it broke. It looks stable, functional, and still, something in you sits down at the kitchen table as if you live alone. It's the loneliness that arrives without drama. No obvious betrayal. No loud ending. Instead, it's just silence. Not the peaceful kind. The careful kind. I used to think silence meant we were mature. That we didn't waste energy on conflict. That we were above the messy couples who fought over nothing and then cried in the hallway. We were calm, polite, efficient. We knew how to pass each other in narrow spaces without touching. And for a while I mistook that for stability. But loneliness speaks through small things. Like the way you stop telling them the tiny details of your day. Not because you're hiding anything, but because somewhere along the way you stopped believing it mattered. Do you know that feeling? When a story forms in your chest and before you even open your mouth, you already imagine the response. A distracted I still on the phone. The conversation dying before it begins. So you edit yourself. You shorten the story. Then you stop telling it. And the silence grows a little more confident. Back then I didn't call it distance. I called it being busy. Responsibilities. Fatigue. The natural evolution of long-term love. But distance doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock. It moves in quietly like dust. And one day you realize you've been breathing it for years. We lived together in a way that looked correct. Morning routines synchronized like a practice dance. The kettle clicked. Coffee poured. One of us opened the curtains. The other checked the weather. There were practical questions. Do we have detergent? Can you pick up the package? Did you call about the car? Our conversations were made of tasks and logistics, stitched together so neatly that from the outside it might have looked like partnership. And maybe in many ways it was. He would fill my car with gas when he noticed the tank was low. I would buy the bread he preferred without asking. He fixed things before they broke completely. I remembered appointments he would have forgotten. Small acts of care. Responsible. Reliable. But closeness is not only responsibility. Closeness is when someone notices the way your voice changes by half a tone. When they ask a question and wait for the real answer. When silence feels shared, not avoided. Somewhere along the years, we stopped entering each other's inner rooms. It didn't happen after a big fight. There wasn't one dramatic night. If you had asked me then, I would have said we were fine. Tired, yes. Busy, of course. But fine. When speaking starts to feel pointless, you begin saving your words. Not out of cruelty. Out of quiet fatigue. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to withdraw. It started with small things. A story from work that felt too complicated to explain. A thought about my mother that felt too vulnerable to share. A fear I couldn't even fully name. And before speaking, I would rehearse his likely reaction in my head. A polite nod. A practical solution. A quick change of subject. So I edited myself. Then I stopped sharing it all. Evenings became quieter. We would sit on the couch, a comfortable distance apart. A show playing. The light from the screen reflecting in his glasses. Sometimes we laughed at the same moment and I would feel relief. We're still connected. But when the episode ended, there was that small space between us that no one crossed. I began going to bed earlier. Not because I was exhausted, though that was the excuse. The truth was simpler. Sleep felt less lonely than sitting next to someone who felt far away. When he came to bed later, he would move carefully, trying not to wake me. That gentleness should have felt loving. Instead, it felt like we were guests in the same room. Everything was calm. Everything was civil. Everything was slightly distant. And distance, when it grows slowly, is almost invisible. Until one day, you realize you haven't truly looked into each other's eyes for a very long time. The evening it became clear to me was not dramatic. It was raining. A steady, patient rain that made the whole city feel like it was holding its breath. I came home carrying groceries, my coat damp at the shoulders. He was in the kitchen rinsing a mug. "Hey," he said. "Hey." I put the bags on the counter and started unpacking them. "Tomatoes. Pasta. Did you get the one I like?" he asked. I did. Good. And something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not sadness. Clarity. Because this small exchange was the most honest picture of us. We remembered preferences. We fulfilled needs. We functioned well. But we were not present. He went back to his phone. I lined up the vegetables in the fridge. The kitchen light felt too bright. And suddenly I had a thought that scared me. If I disappeared emotionally, how long would it take for him to notice? Not physically, not practically, emotionally. If I stopped sharing my fears, if I stopped laughing loudly, if I stopped reaching for him in the dark, would he feel the difference? Or would our system continue to operate smoothly? That question hurt more than any fight could have. I leaned against the counter and watched him scroll, his face illuminated by a pale screen. He looked familiar. Tired maybe. And I realized something uncomfortable. I hadn't truly looked at him in months. I knew his schedule, his habits, his cereal preference. But I didn't know what was happening inside him. And I couldn't remember the last time he had asked about what was happening inside me. Not as a polite phrase, but as a real invitation. You can spend years next to someone and still not feel seen. Presence means attention without distraction. Curiosity. We had time. What we no longer had was presence. And the harder truth was this. I had participated. I had chosen comfort over vulnerability. Peace over honesty. Routine over risk. Because saying something fragile like, "I feel alone next to you," felt heavier than silence. So I stayed quiet. But that evening, standing in a bright kitchen while rain pressed against the windows, I understood something I could no longer ignore. We were not fighting. We were fading. And fading is quieter. But sometimes it hurts more. That night I didn't confront him. Instead, I lay awake longer than usual. When he came to bed and slid under the blanket with practiced gentleness, I stayed still. And in that stillness, something became clear. We had confused time with closeness. We believed that because we had years behind us, we were secure. But closeness is not built from years. It is built from moments of presence. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being curious about each other. We knew the headlines, but not the subtext. We stopped asking questions that didn't have practical answers. We stopped tolerating the discomfort of vulnerability. We chose calm over contact. And I realized something else. I had been protecting myself. When connection feels uncertain, you reduce your exposure. You share less, expect less, need less, to feel safer. But safety without intimacy slowly turns into isolation. I wasn't angry at him. And I wasn't innocent either. It's easier to ask, "Did you pay the bill?" than to ask, "Are you still happy with me?" It's easier to say, "I'm tired," than to say, "I'm afraid we're drifting." Lying there in the dark, I didn't decide whether to stay or leave. That wasn't the moment. The moment was simpler. I admitted the truth. We were not close. Not because we didn't care, but because we had stopped showing up emotionally. In the morning, nothing dramatic had changed. The kettle clicked. Coffee poured. But something inside me was awake. I looked at him, really looked. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something softer than loneliness. Curiosity. Maybe closeness doesn't disappear all at once. Maybe it waits for someone to return. Not with accusations. Just with presence. That morning I asked quietly, "How have you been, lately?" It was a small question. But it was real. And sometimes presence begins exactly there. Not with dramatic confessions, but with one honest moment. Where two people decide to be here, fully.
You are welcome to come back.